Hello everybody, I'm Alex the Handyman, and today we're going to talk about the white Rodgers zone valve, the 1311 1-2, that's the 3/4. We're going to talk about wiring, we're going to talk about troubleshooting, very interesting. I've heard people get confused with these zone valves because of the amount of wires that go to it, but I'm going to try to explain it the best I can. You know, it's a little bit complicated, but once you get to know it, then you'll be okay. I've been working on these for about 20 years. I know how they work, how they fail, and how to fix them. So in this video, I'm going to try to show you pretty much everything I know about these zone valves. So one of the characteristics about this valve is that they allow a lot of water to pass through. Some other valves, if you see these openings of the gate of the stem, it's quite large, and if you see this, it's pretty much wide open on both sides of the valve. And if we compare it with the Taco, so if you see that hole, it's about 5/16 round open, not that big. And if you compare this is about 1 inch, so the flow capacity is greater than most of the zone valves I know. In my opinion, if these are 15-20 years old, don't change the stem and the motor assembly, change the whole thing, because chances are you replace a part on it, and then next year or same year you have to replace another part. So change the whole thing, and I'm gonna show you why. So there are 4 different ways you can service this. You can either replace the whole thing. If the valve is 15-20 years old, replace the whole thing. I strongly suggest that. Or if it's 5-10 years and the motor doesn't work, it's very easy to replace the motor. You don't have to drain anything. So if you look at the back, there's 2 nuts, 2 screws, 2 bolts. So we're gonna remove the screws. There's one here and one here. So this is your valve. So once you remove the screws, you pull the motor, and then you replace your motor, and then you rewire the same way it was wired before. Look, you don't have to close the system. Now the other way you can do is, if the motor is in good shape but it's not turning anymore, chances are that this part broke. So you can replace this part only, and they sell it, and the part number, I'm gonna put it on the screen, but you can replace this part only. So the 4th way you can service this, if this valve is fairly new, if it's leaking through here and everything is in good shape, what you could do is replace the O-rings. So I have 2 O-rings and 2 retainer clips. There's the bigger O-ring here, and that seals right here, so there's no water. And the other one, if you see inside, there's a clip, a retainer clip, and then there's another one inside. So let's talk about the sequence of operation and the wiring at the same time. So let's start with the power. We have a transformer here, and we're gonna power it with 120 volts here. On the secondary side of the transformer, we have the 24 volts, and we have our hot and our neutral. This is our valve, and it is number 2254613. Now you have to know that 2 and 5 are interconnected. That's why the 25 is the 2. So that's important for you to know. And then 4 goes to the white, the 6 is the closing, and it goes to number 6. The 6 from your thermostat goes to the 6 of the valve. The 5, which is marked as R, goes to number 5, and the 4, which is the white wire, goes to number 4 on the valve. And then we have the 3 is the end switch with number 5, and that goes to the relay of the pump. Okay, so when your thermostat calls for heat, now remember 5 is always hot, and since this is a single pole double throw, when you call for heat, number 5 and number 4 make, and 6 is released, and then 4 makes, and it sends power to turn the motor on your valve. On this valve, you have side A, and side B of the motor. So when you call for heat, and right when your valve starts turning, if you see here, right when your valve starts turning, the A side of the motor is a holding circuit. It holds the contacts of the valve and prevents it from stopping midway. And right before the valve is fully open, this end switch makes, which is 3 and 5, and that sends power to your relay, and the relay turns the pump and the burners. Now, once your thermostat is satisfied, now remember 5 and 4 made, and it disengaged number 6. So now when the thermostat is satisfied, now number 4 is going to disengage, and number 6 is going to engage. So 5 and 6, so it's number 6 that closes the valve. And at the same time, when you turn it off, when the motor starts turning, the holding motor is going to prevent the valve from stopping midway. And right after it stops to the off position, the end switch is going to disengage, and it's going to be ready for another call for heat. So this is the wiring for multiple valves. If you have a building, let's say this is apartment A, apartment B, and apartment C, or in your house, this might be the first floor, second floor, and basement. So if you look here, in your valve, you might see 3 sets of wires with a lot of wires going everywhere. It might be very confusing, and it is, but once I tell you how it works, it might clear your mind on these regards. So again, we have your neutral. One single thermostat is going to control, one single transformer is going to control all 3 valves. So we have the neutral side that goes to number 1, and then from this valve, another wire is going to go to the other apartment or to the other first floor or second floor of your house. And then from here, it's going to go to number 1 of the other valve in the other apartment. So that's why when you see your valve, you might see these sets of wires. One set of wires is from your thermostat. The other set of wires is coming to feed your valve, and the other sets of wires are going somewhere else to feed power to the other valve. We have our transformer, 120 and then 20 volts on the secondary side. We have our zone valve, 13, 11, 102. We have our Honeywell thermostat. And then we have our relay switching for the pump. And this is going to be the pump for now, the bulb. So now I want to start by telling you, remember I told you before that 2 and 5 are one and the same. So I'm going to show you and I'm going to prove it to you. So they have continuity. 2 and 5 are one and the same. Okay. So our thermostat, the temperature in the room right now is 70 degrees, and we're going to call for heat. So we want to put it, and I don't know if you see that. It is 70 degrees right now, and we're going to call for heat. So let's call for heat right now. I have to call for heat a higher number of what the temperature is right now at the room. So let's do 80. So you hear that? The valve is spinning. So this valve is in the closed position, it's spinning and spinning until the red color of the valve, which it says open, red is open. And then you see it's open. And then right before it closes, it fully opens, the valve, the pump, boom, is gonna open. So that's her pump running, and that could be the pump and the burners. So now if you see, right now it's red. It says open right there, and it's fully open. Do you see my hand through here? So that's fully open. So what happens is this valve has, the motor has two parts, A and B. When you call for heat and the valve starts turning on, a holding circuit takes a hold of the motor, and this holding circuit is to prevent the valve, the turning of the motor, to stop midway. So it holds it and it takes it all the way to on, to the open position, to open the valve. And right before the valve closes, number 3 and number 5, which is the end switch, sends power through these two to my relay, and the relay through the 24 volts. We have our 120 volts here for the pump, and just switch it and turns the pump on. So right now we have our pump running. Okay, so now let's suppose our thermostat is satisfied. So let's pretend, let's move our thermostat to a lower number. Okay, sorry we lost sound, but now the valve is turning. I hear it. You don't hear it, but I hear it, believe me. So now it's going to turn the boiler, the pump off, and the burners off, and the valve keeps spinning 90 degrees from the opening position to the closed position, and it's going to do it through the green wire on the terminal number 6. And when it reaches the whole cycle, it's going to stop, and it's going to wait for new calling for heat. Okay, so now let's troubleshoot. So nothing works. You don't have heat. The first thing you have to do is check your 120 volts to the transformer, and 124 volt to the transformer, and make sure that 24 volts are coming out of the secondary side of the transformer. So remember, number 2 and number 1 are always hot. Number 1 and number 2 reads 28 volts. It's off. It's not calling for heat, but it should always have 24 volts. If you don't have 24 volts on 1 and 2, you have to find out why. It could be a broken wire. It could be that you don't have 120 volts, or it could be that you don't have 24 volts on the secondary side of the transformer. So check for that before you go any further. So now, what happens if number 4 and number 5 in the wires coming for the thermostat are crossed, are switched. So let's do that now. Let's do we're gonna put number 4 in number 5, number 5 in number 4. So let's call for heat. The valve is closed right now. It's gonna open the valve, close the circuit, and right now it's coming from being off to being on, and now the pump is gonna turn on. That's the pump and the burners running. So right now it's in the close position. No, I'm sorry, it's in the on position. It's calling for heat. But once it satisfies the temperature, the pump went off, but the valve is wide open. So even though the pump is not working, you are fully open. The valve never closes again, so your apartment is gonna be too warm. So one of the reasons why your apartment is too warm, one of them is that the 4 and the 5 are switched. Now let's switch them back, and automatically the pump, because it was open in the open position, is gonna close. Because we are not calling for heat, the pump and the burners are off, and now your valve from being open, it's gonna close 90 degree, and then it's gonna close the port. Okay, so too much heat. You already check number 5 and number 4, they're in the right position. Check number 6. Let's suppose the number 6 wire, it's broken. You're gonna call for heat. It's gonna open the valve and close the circuit. It's going from being closed to open. It's gonna turn the motor, the pump and the burners right now. So everything is nice. You are nice and warm. But now let's finish for the cycle. So it closes. Okay. So you are nice and hot. But now the thermostat is satisfied, and let's satisfy the thermostat. The valve is going to remain open because the 6, that is the wire that closes the valve, it's broken, it's loose, or it's loose at the thermostat, it's loose at the valve, or the wire might be broken. So too much heat if number 6 is broken, or if number 4 and number 5. So now let's connect it, and now when I connect number 6, it's gonna allow the motor to close the valve again, so no more heat passes. Okay, so another reason why your apartment is too hot, it could be because number 4 and number 6 are switched, and it's open when it's supposed to be closed. So we are not calling for heat. I put the 4 on the 6, and I'm gonna put the 6 on the 4. And if you hear right now, it's gonna open the valve when it's supposed to be closed. We are not calling for heat, so it's supposed to be closed. So by switching 6 and 4, it will open when it's supposed to be closed. So hot water is gonna keep passing through that and opening out the valve, and too much heat on happy tenants. We turn the pump on, and it's on the on position, wide open, but it's not calling for heat. So now I switch back the 4 and the 6, and it's going to close the valve because it's not calling for heat as it's supposed to be. So how do we know if the motor is working? So let's jump terminals 4 and 5. if it opens, then it's working. If it doesn't open the valve, then it's a faulty valve. But first you have to remove the circuit of the thermostat. So just remove the head, and then we're gonna jump 4 and 5, and it's opening the valve. And see, I removed number 4 because the A circuit of the motor is a holding circuit. It doesn't allow the valve to stop in the middle of the cycle, even though I remove the number 4. Now the pump is running, the burners are firing, we have heat. Okay, so I'm gonna so to close, right now the valve is open. How do you check the motor in if the motor closes? So we're gonna do number 5 and number 6. Remember, 6 is the one that closes the motor. So I have my terminal in number 5, and now number 6. Now see, it's the same thing. When it goes, it's gonna close the valve. There's the holding circuit that holds it. It prevents it from stopping midway. So now it's closing my motor. So by jumping 4 and 5, it opens. Jumping 5 and 6, it closes. So we know that the motor of this sun valve is working fine. So one more thing you can do, say you don't have heat and it's late at night, and if you're the technician, if you cannot get parts to fix it, you can force it open. And what you're gonna do first is gonna remove number 6, terminal number 6. You're gonna remove it because remember, the terminal 6 is the one that closes the valve. So if it satisfies the temperature, it's gonna close. So that's why we're removing this. We're gonna force, if this is in the closed position, we're gonna force it open. So right now it's closed. You're gonna turn clockwise until you see the red color right there, and it says open. And now if you see, it's open. You can see my hand here, it's open. So then you can have heat and until the technician comes and fixes your apartment. Now remember, since you're forcing it open, it's not going to close, so you might get a little bit too hot, but it's better to be too warm than too cold. So now let's talk about thermostats. Since this is a 3-wire thermostat, not all the thermostats work with your 1311. So this is a list of thermostats that I know they work with this valve. And let's start with number 1 is the white Rodgers. Is pretty much the original one, is the spring action, and it's analog, very old, kind of ugly, but it's only it's very simple, but it'll do the trick, and that's $25. And then the Honeywell Mercury, the Series 20, it's analog, is the round old Honeywell. So those don't make anymore because it's the Mercury one. The other one is the Honeywell T87K, the round. It's non-programmable. You can get it at Home Depot or Menards or Lowe's, and it's only $28, heat only, mechanical. I don't like this one because you know, I don't like how they measure the temperature or how is displayed on it. And on this one, you're gonna use the Y for the green wire. Instead, there's no G, there's only R, Y, W, and Y. So you're gonna use the Y on this one. And then the other thermostat I wanna talk about is the Honeywell T2. This is a good looking thermostat. It is digital, and it's only $30 at the store. You can find it at Home Depot or Menards or Lowe's. I like this thermostat because it's non-programmable. When you have apartments, you don't want people to play with it and then it's a callback. And I'm just gonna show you that it works. So we're gonna call for heat. Right now it's 70 degrees. I'm gonna call for heat. And it takes a few seconds. So boom, it's calling for heat, it's opening the valve. So you want to make sure that opens the valve and it stays open when it's supposed to be open. Because some thermostats, they open but they never close. So it takes about 20 seconds for the wheel to make a 90-degree turn. Now the pump is on, the burners are on. Now let's satisfy the temperature. So I'm gonna put it at 67. And remember, it takes 3-4 seconds before it clicks. Boom. And it turned the pump off. Hey guys, that's it for today. I thank you so very much for watching. If you like this video or if you benefit from it, please subscribe. Please give me a like, and comments are welcome. I have more videos here for White Rodgers, how to remove and install, and I have another video for Honeywell as well, and takeoff valves too. So watch my other videos. Thank you so much and see you next video.